Today we're going to look at what happens when we raise a power to a power. And let's look at this first example here where we have a squared raised to the third power. So remember, this exponent means that whatever it's an exponent to, the base is multiplied times itself 3 times. Well, a squared, again, is a times a. So we need to do 3 of those. So we have a times a times a times a, and that gives us a to the 6th. Well, the easy way to do this is if you have a power as a base and it's raised to the power out here, you multiply these two numbers together, the two exponents. So we could say it's a to the power of 2 times 3, which is a to the 6th. Okay? And that's what this rule here says. It says if you have a power, and it's going to be inside the parentheses, raised to a power outside the parentheses, you simply multiply those two together. Now, you have to also remember that when you're doing this, if you have a power outside the parentheses, it is a power to everything inside the parentheses. So if I have x to the m power here, it needs to be raised or multiplied by the power of p. So I have x to the power of m times p. And then I have y to the power of n, and then that would also be multiplied times the p, because it's being raised to the p. Okay? So let's look at this example. Here we have a squared b to the third. This whole thing is in parentheses, raised to the power of 2, or squared, which means we need to multiply this times itself twice. So here's the first time, here's the second time, and if we expand it, this is a squared. Let's go ahead and highlight this. And a squared, and a squared looks like that. And that's this part. Okay. And then a b squared, we use a different, or b to the b cubed, I should say. Looks like this. This is the b cubed. Alright? So in the end, what we look at is this whole thing all together, because we've written it twice. So we're doing this 2 times right there. So we'd count our a's, 1, 2, 3, 4, a to the 4th, b's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, b to the 6th. But that's the same thing here, and let me write this out. That's saying it's a squared, and then we have the times 2, so I'm going to show you that. So times 2, and then it's b cubed, and that's also times 2. So 2 times 2 for the a is a to the 4th. b, 3 times 2 is to the 6th. So that's the easy way to get it. Alright. Now, on number 1, remember, this is going to be, if you need to put your little 1 to show that it's a power of 1 right there, that would be negative 3 to the power of 1 times 3, and then it's m to the power of 1 times 3. Now we can figure out the negative 3 to the power of 3, because that's what it would be. So negative 3 to the power of 3, and then m to the power of 3, because 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 3 is 3. Now, when you put in your negative 3 into your calculator and raise it to the power of 3, you must remember it has to be in parentheses. Any negative number has to be in parentheses before you raise it to the power. I could give you another rule to remember right now, but I won't because this is going to be fun enough as it is. So this would be negative 27, because that's what negative 3 to the power of 3 is, m to the third. Okay. So on number 2, remember, we have to follow our order of operations. So we have to take care of this part here, the 3x to the fourth in parentheses first. So that's 3 to the power of 2, and I'm going to put this whole thing in parentheses, and x, and it's to the fourth. And remember, if that's raised to a power, we're going to multiply the powers. Okay, so then we end up with, well, 3 squared is 9, and then x, so I have 4 times 2 is 8. Now I can bring down this negative 4, and negative 4 times 9 is negative 36, x to the power of 8. Okay. So let's do number 3. Again, we're going to do our parentheses first. So I have negative 5 to the power of 2, x, and it's to the 7th. Remember, we're going to multiply those exponents, and so that would equal, now it's a positive 25, x to the 14th. Now we can multiply that times the 3. So if I do the 3 times the 25, it's 75, x to the 14th. All right. Number 4 is pretty straightforward. We're going to take b to the 4, and remember, we're multiplying this exponent times this exponent times the 5th, or times 5, y, and it's 3 times 5, and that gives us b to the 20th, y to the 15th. Alright, let's look at 5. Now if it helps you, you can put a 1 as your exponent right there for m. So I have negative 3, and I'm going to raise that to the power of 3, m, 1 times 3, n, 2 times 3. Because I have to multiply this 2 times that 3. So negative 3 to the third is negative 27. Then m, remember we're multiplying to the third, n to the 6th. Alright, number 6, it's not that complicated. We just have to remember to do everything in order. So we're going to do this part first. We're going to worry about this later. So let's do our parentheses that has an exponent first. So I have negative 4 to the third, s, the 1 times 3, v to the 3 times 3, and so that gives me negative 64, make sure that's equal, 64, s to the third, v to the 9th. Okay, so now I can multiply, and let me just show you, because this, I want to show you that this is the same as that. Alright, now I can multiply my two together. So I have 3s to the third, v to the fifth. I'm just rewriting this right here. Times negative 64 s to the third, v to the ninth. Now remember, when we're multiplying, it's just adding exponents. But 3 times negative 64, let's see, that would be negative 182. I have an s3 here, and s to the third here, so it gives me s to the sixth. Then I have v to the fifth and v to the ninth. Remember, I add the 5 and the 9, so that's v to the 14th. Alright, so on number 7, what we need to do is we need to take care of this first, because it has an exponent outside the parentheses. So I have x squared, and we're going to multiply those exponents. Y to the fourth times 3 and that is x to the sixth, y to the 12th. Just so you can see, that is the same thing right here. Okay? And now we're going to multiply. I'm going to take this, that part, and multiply it times this. X to the sixth, y to the fifth, z. Now I have an x to the sixth, x to the sixth. That gives me x to the 12th. From a y to the 12th and y to the 5th. Remember, we're adding exponents, so 12 plus 5 is 17. And then I only have a z, so I'm just bring it down. Alright, number 8, what you have to do is you have to take care of the part in parentheses first. That's this. So let's look at that. We're going to do that first. So that's negative 6 squared x to the sixth times 2, y to the third times 2. And what that gives us, I'm going to bring it down here. It gives us, oh, that should be negative 6. I want to make sure I got that right. With those parentheses, just so we know where we're at. Okay. Negative 6 squared is positive 36. The x, and then 6 times 2 is x to the 12th. And then y to the 3 times 2 is y to the 6th. Okay. So now I can work on, let me just show you that. Just work that out right there. And now we can bring down our negative 2 and start working on that. So negative 2 times 36 is negative 72. And then we don't need to change our variables with their exponents, because there are no more variables with the same base. I mean, with this that are the same base. Okay. Number 9. Again, we're going to work on the part in the parentheses first, with that exponent outside those parentheses. So let's see what that is. So we have 2 x to the 2 times 3. Oh, I forgot to put my 3. Remember, that exponent goes with everything, and I almost made the mistake of not putting it with my coefficient there. Okay, so 2 to the power of 3 is 8. X to the 2 times 3 is x to the 6th. Now See, now we can bring down the 5x and we multiply it. So we multiply the coefficients. 5 times 8 is 40. And remember, if it helps you, put a 1 right there so you know that the exponent is 1. And when you're multiplying like this, not raising to a power, but when you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So that's x to the power of 1 plus 6, which is x to the 7th. All right. Number 10, you need to know that area equals length times width. So if I drew this, my length would be 8m to the third squared, and this would be 4x squared m to the fourth. So what we have to do first is we have to find out what is this. So 8 m to the third squared is the same thing as 8 squared m to the 3 times 2. Let's figure this out. 8 squared, put that in your calculator, is 64. M to the 3 times 2 is m to the 6th power. So now, this is the same thing as my length right here. So my area equals 64 m to the 6th times, over here, my width, which is 4x squared m to the 4th. If I do 64 times 4, that's 256. Now remember, if I have a like base, I don't have another x. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and bring this over, x squared, because I don't have another base to do anything with. And then with my m's, remember I need to add my exponents. 6 and 4 is 10. So our final answer is 256 x squared m to the 10th. Alright, so for volume of a cube, volume is equal to the length of a side cubed. So I would write this: -9 k x to the third, that's the side, so that's s, and then I raise the whole thing to the third. So that equals -9 to the third, k to the third, x, and we add that exponent, so it's 3 times 3. So let's see, what is -9 cubed? So I believe that's -729 k to the third x, and then we just multiply those two together to the 9th. Okay. Number 12. Okay, again, area is length times width. So the length is 4x squared. The width, that's x cubed, and the whole thing is cubed. So now we need to figure out what that is. So that's x to the 3 times the 3. That equals x to the 9. So now that we have that worked out, now we can start our equation over here. We're looking for area equals, the length is 4x squared times the width is x to the 9. Okay. So now we make sure our bases. I have 4. There's nothing else to multiply it with, so I'm just going to write 4. And then it's x. And remember, we're going to add the exponents. I'll go ahead and show you here. 2 plus 9. So that comes out to 4. X to the 11. Now, I think you probably realized you need to memorize the rules. There's no way around it. You just have to memorize the rules. And if you do that, then I think you'll have no problems. Use your calculator and the memorized rules, and it's as easy as pie.